Jack and the Beanstalk, retold and illustrated by Steven Kellogg. Author's note. This book is based on the classic Jack and the Beanstalk, which was an English fairy tale, which was edited by Joseph Jacobs in 1889. He informed us in the notes and references that I told this as it was told me in Australia, somewhere about the year 1860. Although this retelling has been adapted for a contemporary picture storybook audience, it is faithful to the spirit of Joseph Jacobs' language, retaining some now remote phrases like start shop and words like peltered, which is a synonym for dashed, because of their contribution to the character and color of the tale. And on with the tale. There was, once upon a time, a poor widow who had an only son named Jack and a cow named Milky White, and all they had to live on was the milk the cow gave every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. But one morning, Milky White gave no milk, and they didn't know what to do. "Cheer up, Mother. I'll go and get work somewhere," said Jack. "We've tried that before, and nobody would take you," cried his mother. "We must sell Milky White, and with the money start shop or something." So on his way to the market, Jack met a funny-looking old man. "Well, good morning, Jack," he said. "Good morning to you," said Jack, and wondered how the man knew his name. "Can you tell me how many beans make 5?" said the man. "Well, 2 in one hand and 1 in your mouth," said Jack, sharp as a needle. "Right," said the man, "and as you're such a bright lad, I don't mind doing a swap with you. You're a cow for these beans." "Go along," said Jack. "Ah, but these are magical beans," said the man. "If you plant them tonight, by morning they'll grow right up into the sky." "Really?" said Jack. "Yes, and if it doesn't turn out to be true, you can have your cow back." "Back already, Jack?" said his mother. "Tell me, how much did you get for Milky White?" "Oh, you'll never guess, Mother." "Could it be 5 pounds? 10, 15? "No," she cried. "It can't be 20. "Oh, I knew you wouldn't guess. What do you say to these magical beans? Plant them tonight and—" "What?" said Jack's mother. "Have you been such a dolt, such an idiot, to give away my Milky White, the best milker in the parish, for a set of paltry beans? Off with you to bed. And as for your precious beans, here they go out the window." So Jack went upstairs to his little room in the attic, and sad and sorry he was, to be sure, as much for his mother's sake as for the loss of his supper. And at last he dropped off to sleep. Now when Jack awoke, he saw that the beans had sprung up into a giant, big beanstalk that went up and up and up until it reached the sky. Look, there's the house, and look how big that beanstalk is. So the old man had spoke the truth after all. So Jack gave a jump onto the beanstalk, and he climbed, 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 till at last he reached the sky. And then Jack walked along, And he walked along, and he walked along till he came to a great, big, tall house. And on the doorstep was a great, big, tall woman. "Well, good morning, Mom," said Jack. "Could you be so kind as to give me some breakfast?" "Is it breakfast you want?" said the big, tall woman. "It's breakfast you'll be. If you don't move on, my man is an ogre, and there's nothing he likes better than broiled boys on toast." "Oh, please, Mom," cried Jack. "I've had nothing to eat since yesterday morning. Really and truly, Mom, I may as well be broiled as die of hunger." Well, the ogre's wife wasn't half so bad after all. She took Jack into the kitchen and gave him some bread and cheese, when all of a sudden, thump, 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 the whole house began to shake and tremble with the noise of someone coming. "Goodness gracious me," said the ogre's wife. "Come along quick." And she bundled Jack into the oven just as the ogre came in. He was a big one, to be sure. "Ah, wife," he said, "what's that I smell? Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense, dear," said his wife. "You're just dreaming, or perhaps you smell the scraps of the boy that you liked so much for yesterday's dinner. Here, you go and have a wash and tidy up, and by the time you come back, those calves will be broiled for your dinner. For your breakfast, sorry." Well, the ogre had his breakfast, and after that, he went to a big chest and took out a couple of bags of gold, and down he sat and counted. And at last, his head began to nod, and he began to snore till the whole house shook again. And then Jack crept out of the oven, grabbed a bag of gold, and was off before you could say Jack Robinson. When Jack came to the beanstalk, he threw down the gold, which of course fell into his mother's garden. And then Jack climbed down. "Well, Mother," he said, "wasn't I right about the beans? They really are magical, you see." And so they lived off the bag of gold for some time. But at last they came to the end of it, and Jack made up his mind to try his luck once more up at the top of the beanstalk. And so one fine morning he rose up early and climbed onto the beanstalk, and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed, and he walked and he walked and he walked till at last he came to the great big tall house he had been to before. And there, sure enough, standing on the doorstep was the great big tall woman. "Go away, my boy," said the big tall woman, "or else my man will eat you for breakfast. But aren't you the youngster who came here once before? Do you know that very day my man missed one of his bags of gold?" "Well, that's strange, Mum," said Jack, bold as brass. "I dare say I could tell you something about that, but I'm so hungry I can't speak till I've had something to eat." Well, that big tall woman was so curious that she took him in again. And all happened as it did before. Thump, thump, thump. They heard the ogre's footsteps, and his wife hid Jack away in the oven. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. And after breakfast, the ogre said, "Wife, bring me the hen that lays the golden eggs." And so she brought it, and the ogre said, "Lay." And it laid an egg all of gold. And soon the ogre began to nod and to snore till the house shook. And then Jack tiptoed out of the oven grabbed the golden hen, and off he pelted. But this time the hen gave a cackle that woke the ogre, and just as Jack got out of the house, he heard him roaring, "Wife, wife, what have you done with my golden hen?" When Jack got home, he showed his mother the wonderful hen and said, "Lay," to it, and it laid a golden egg every time he said lay. Well, it wasn't very long before Jack decided once again to try his luck up there at the top of the beanstalk. This time, he knew better than to go straight to the ogre's house. So when the big, tall woman came out with a pail, he crept into the house and got into the bread box. There he goes. See him? And he hadn't been there long when he heard thump, thump, thump as before. And in came the ogre and his wife. "Fee, fa, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. I smell him, wife, I smell him." "Do you, my dearie?" said the ogre's wife. "Well, if it's the little rogue that stole your gold and then the hen, then he's sure to have gotten into the oven." And so they both rushed to the oven, but Jack wasn't there, and the ogre's wife said, "There you go again with your fee-fi-fo-fum." Why, of course, it's the boy you caught last night. "It's the boy you caught last night that I've just broiled for your breakfast," she said. "How forgetful I am, and how careless you are not to know the differences between live and dead after all these years." Well, I could have sworn," muttered the ogre, and he searched the larder and the cupboards and everything. Only, luckily, he didn't think of the bread box. And after breakfast was over, the ogre called out, "Wife, bring me my golden harp." And so she brought it, and he said, "Sing." And the golden harp sang out most beautifully. And as it went on singing, the ogre fell asleep and began to snore like thunder. And Jack lifted the lid very quietly and crept like a mouse on hands and knees till he came to the table, and up he crawled and caught hold of the golden harp. But the harp cried out, "Master, master!" and the ogre woke up. And Jack ran as fast as he could, and the ogre came rushing after. And when the ogre saw Jack climbing down for dear life, he swung himself onto the beanstalk, which shook with all his weight, and down climbed Jack, and after him climbed the ogre, and Jack called out, "Mother, mother, bring me an axe." And Jack's mother rushed out with an axe in her hand, and Jack gave a chop at the beanstalk, cutting it in two, and the ogre fell down and broke his crown, and the beanstalk came tumbling after. What with showing the golden harp and selling the golden eggs, Jack and his mother became very rich, and Jack married a great princess, and they all lived happily ever after. Except, of course, the ogre. Oh, there's Jack and his princess. Phineas. There's the old man. Oh, and there's their milky white. Phineas, that means the end.